So with the recent return of the Sacred Hunt event, it's clear to most that limited time events will play at least some role in the future of Conan Exiles. Understandably so, they've been successful in many other games, and if it keeps people coming back and draws in new players, it's a win-win. However, limited time events can be a bit of a double-edged sword, so how can the devs improve on the current event and prepare future ones so they're as good as possible? Today I'm going to go through some of my own ideas on how that can be done. So without further ado, let's get started. First things first, we'll get the obvious things out of the way, and that is consistency. This encompasses gameplay quality, bug fixes, quality control and all that jazz, amongst other things that I'll touch on throughout this video. This stuff is pretty common sense. I doubt I could say anything groundbreaking about minimising bugs and making sure the quality of content is as good as possible, but I would have felt remiss to not mention it. So, with that done, let's move on to the interesting stuff. Having a transparent schedule of what's to come is probably the most important thing for limited time events. It looks like, as opposed to events randomly dropping, Conan's limited time events, or LTEs, will likely run on a regular cycle as the library of LTEs builds. When I've played other games in the past that also have limited time events, I really hate when they just drop out of nowhere, and then you feel very rushed to complete them with absolutely no time scale of when it will return. We are already seeing issues with scheduling and transparency with Conan, I presume at least in part due to this of course being the first event with no library of LTEs built up. However, if we're going to have a rolling set of events, or something like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, it's important to know the schedule, be able to check it at any time, and have full transparency of what is happening, when it's happening, and if that schedule has been changed due to updates, bugs, etc. But that being said, if there's a schedule, where should it be? It can't be hosted externally on X or the forums or Reddit, or even on Conan's own website. It's just too easy for the majority to miss, so it needs to be in-game. Conan's game design tries to, for better or worse, avoid as many game-like elements as possible, hence why there's no damage numbers or a mini-map or anything like that, but I think the place that is the most gamified is also the same place that every single player on every platform has to see, and that is the main menu. A button or a small widget displaying the current event, what's coming next, and a concise schedule of what's to come over the next month or two would serve that perfectly, alongside maybe an alert if an event is removed or swapped around for bug fixes, a new update, etc. The current issues around transparency and scheduling are most likely a teething issue with the system both being in testing and a symptom of not yet having an actual library of events to rack up. When that is in place, however, there should be an easily accessible in-game way to see what's on now and, probably more importantly, what's coming later. The grind is also something that needs to be considered for each event, and it should be balanced very carefully. That being said, it's probably one of the hardest things, as of course there's no set way to ensure the grind is perfect. It will always be too much or too little for some, but we should always aim to please the most amount of people possible. Let's be frank, nobody really wants a limited time event you can complete in 5 minutes. Replaying it in the future becomes pointless, it's really not that exciting, and it would end up as little more than a glorified farming run to earn a reward. Conversely, nobody wants to spend hours and hours grinding away for small rewards. For example, at the time of recording, the Sacred Hunt event is very grindy, at least for my tastes, and I am partial to a grind or two. That's getting clipped out of context. In terms of balancing the grind, I think you could probably do one of two things. Have a shorter grind for character-bound rewards, or a long grind for items that are bound to your account. Currently with the hunt, we have a long grind for character-bound rewards, which doesn't really satisfy all that much. There are merits and downsides to each approach of course, but currently we've kinda got the worst of both worlds. Ultimately, I think there's always going to be at least a section of people that are unhappy with the level of grind, be it long or short. There is no perfect solution, but balancing the grind out needs to be a target for making the events more digestible and enjoyable. I also think having a couple of alternative event rewards that change on a rotation could be a cool idea. The Sacred Hunt currently has some unused brands, animals and rewards in the admin panel. Adding smaller things like new enemies to fight and a couple of new rewards every so often to rotate alongside the original rewards can help with keeping that grind fresh. Overall, working out the perfect level of grind is a very difficult and subjective task, but it is essential for future events to be a success. This is a bit of a smaller one, arguably also quite obvious, but the events need to be engaging. To be fair, I found the Sacred Hunt to be quite engaging in gameplay, but also in the lore. The latter was fairly simple on the surface, with a pretty easy setup and payoff, but still enjoyable. I found the event in general much more engaging than something like witch hunts or grave matters from the past. Those sort of simple events didn't really do much for me. In the future, I think limited time events should be at least as engaging as the Sacred Hunt, if not more so. The event system does kinda get typecast as just some sort of side activity you can do, but I don't think that needs to be the case. You can very well craft a limited time event that is just as enjoyable and engaging as the permanent content, alongside telling interesting stories through the lore, which I think ultimately is one of Conan's biggest strengths. Additionally, I don't think events need to be this sort of one-shot thing where you can complete the event in one go. I think it would be very interesting to have much larger events split up into 2 or 3 different iterations, almost like a smaller version of the chapters in each age. For example, an event would have 3 chapters that occur in a rolling succession. You can complete chapter 1 for some rewards, chapter 2 for some rewards, and chapter 3, and then not only do you get more rewards, but you also get a smaller yet still cohesive story through those events. I do feel like the Sacred Hunt, removed from the really obnoxious reward grind and some of the bugs, has a fairly engaging gameplay loop and storytelling, and that needs to continue and build even further with future events to pull people in. My final suggestion is a bit more of a niche completionist one, but I think it's quite nifty. It's something I'd like anyway. So far, I really like that the battle passes have included small tokens of remembrance as a sort of memento of having played during that time. It's almost like a relic of the story that has passed, and something similar for events could be pretty cool for those who like to have the trophies of their conquests. This doesn't really have to be anything major, just a small relic of your completion which you can claim from an event vendor once you've purchased all the rewards or completed all the tasks. For example, the old witch hunts could have given you a placeable arcane staff through defeating all of the sorcerers. The Sacred Hunt could give you a placeable version of Gura the Hunter's corrupted horn, and so on. It's a very minor thing, but I imagine at least some players would appreciate having a token to show they've completed all an event had to offer, and perhaps an alternative upgraded token in the future if events receive extra content. For example, the cleansed version of Gura's Horn, if you complete the Sacred Hunt event, including the champions and rewards that are currently inaccessible in your admin panel but may be added later. Again, this is quite a minor suggestion, but I see it as a nice reward to recognise the time investment you spent taking part in an event. Some people won't really care for them, of course, but I know at least some would like to create displays of the events, battle passes and dungeons they've cleared, so I think it would be quite a nice cherry atop the cake as a small, exclusive reward that you could only get if you complete everything on offer. So to recap, the limited time event system needs to be tight and efficient to see success in Conan. Bugs and quality control of course must be the utmost priority, but aside from that, players should be able to see the event schedule in-game in a place they can't miss, so everyone has access to know when things are happening. The grind needs to be balanced out to make the event more enjoyable for the most number of players. Events need to remain engaging and improve even more on that to provide interesting gameplay and storytelling, and finally, a smaller decorative reward to commemorate the player's completion of any given event, and as a somewhat exclusive token of prestige to have on display would be a very nice completionist reward for those that are interested in that sort of thing. I know I would enjoy it. Similar to my video on improving the bazaar, I'm hoping this can serve as a sort of focused hub for feedback, so please do leave your own points in the comments below. Some people undoubtedly will just not like the idea of LTEs in general, but if they are indeed going to be part of Conan's future, then I think the feedback is very important for trying to ensure those events are as fun, engaging and refined as possible. Thank you for watching, and of course a massive thanks to our wonderful, esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. The Sacred Hunt definitely had a bit of a rocky start, but I think the lore and the gameplay itself were pretty good, and with some of these feedback points I think the hunt, and more importantly future events, can be even better. Again, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.